Hey, so it's Father's Day. Thought it would be interesting to pick 5 good fathers and 5 terrible fathers. So I thought about doing this for Mother's Day last month, but I didn't end up doing it. I decided I'd actually pull the trigger on Father's Day. So I'll start with one good and one bad, both from the same author, Cormac McCarthy. So the good, The Road. The bad, Outer Dark. I'll talk about The Road in a second, but Outer Dark, this is going to be really hard to do this video without doing spoilers, so I can't really say anything about it. If you haven't read Outer Dark, there is a father in the book who does something absolutely horrible. It's one of the worst things you could ever do, and I can't say anything more because it will spoil the book, and it happens pretty early, but definitely read Outer Dark. It's a beautifully written, really dark book with an absolute terrible father. But on the other coin, Cormac McCarthy, The Road. So I'm sure most everybody has heard of or even read The Road. One of the best fathers in all of literature. That's pretty much the whole point of the book, right? And that's why McCarthy wrote this book, because he became a father at a very, very late age in his life. And I have a couple of quotes here that I wanted to read. So this is on page 5. Page 5, very early. He knew only that the child was his warrant. He said, if he is not the word of God, God never spoke. That's how much he loves his son. This one, if you read it in the right mind frame, it will definitely make you tear up. He's talking to his son, and the son says, what would you do if I died? If you died, I'd want to die too. So you could be with me? Yes, so I could be with you. Okay. Yeah. So the book is full of moments like that. There's some really beautiful moments at the end of the book. Yeah, man, he's just doing the best he can, trying to be the best dad he can in this horrible situation that they're in. So I've got another author that I'm going to double up on, and it's going to be everyone's favorite, Stephen King. So got 2 books. Both of them are in the bad dad category, but for different reasons. So The Shining is pretty obvious, right? What about Pet Sematary? I thought about this one a bit. So The Shining is very obvious. Jack Torrance is a abusive, alcoholic, horrible father. Yes, the hotel, changes him, but he is a bad guy, right? Struggling at least. So he's susceptible to this ability of the hotel to do that to him. He's awful. Very early in the book, right, there's a scene where he talks about how he broke his son's arm just because he was angry at him and just grabbed him. And it's like, doesn't get much worse than that, right? But on the other hand, Pet Sematary. So Louis Creed isn't really a bad guy at all. He's not a bad dad. He's actually a pretty good dad, but I put him in the bad dad category because, come on, he knew what was going to happen. Even though he'd been warned several times, and he saw what happened to the cat, he still took his son to the pet cemetery, even though he knew it would come back and it wouldn't really be his son. And he just made everything worse because he couldn't deal with his own grief. Does that make him a bad dad? I don't know. I'll leave you the judge. I don't know. But I thought this was an interesting thought. Is he a good dad? He's definitely a good dad to his kids, but he does just something really bad when he takes them to the pet cemetery. And he knew what was going to happen, I think. So that's a tough one. That one could go either way, but The Shining, he's definitely just a bad dude. So a couple of graphic novels. So one of my favorite dads of all time, is Superman. If you've never read Tomasi's Superman, this is full of moments of Clark teaching John just how to be a good person. And it's because you all know the story of Superman. You know, he's an alien who was raised by farmers, and he just happened to be raised by extremely good people. So he has this very strong father figure who, you know, he names his son after, Jonathan Kent. And there's so many moments where he'll teach John about why it's important to remember the past, like U.S. history, for example. There's a whole 1 or 2 issues where they go on a road trip, and he teaches them about all these things that happened in the past and why they shouldn't be forgotten, they should be remembered, and the good and the bad. And there's so many moments, of course, where they're fighting, you know, some big villain, and they're working together. And yeah, this it's really inspiring, this one. This is, if you think comics are silly and goofy, then you're wrong, because this is inspiring and will try to teach you how to be better. We can all learn and be better from Clark. On the other hand, in The Bad Dad, it is basically the complete opposite. Omni-Man. So, I know this is kind of a spoiler, but I don't really have a choice here. He's got to go on the list. I won't say anything about what he does, but just know, if you haven't read Invincible, it's great. It's really brutal, and it's got a really, really bad dad who's basically like Superman without being raised by Jonathan and Martha Kent. Okay, so just a few more here in the good. So we'll go with, this is one you probably won't see on anybody else's list, The Dad from Calvin and Hobbes. I've been reading Calvin and Hobbes since I was a child. Of course, this is the book I've had since I was a little kid. There's so many moments where Calvin's dad just teaches him these little life lessons, or just Calvin's dad showing how patient he is dealing with a crazy boy. I have a crazy boy, and he tests my patience all the time. And I think of these moments where, you know, Calvin's dad will have raked the lawn, and his mom's like, "Hey, I thought you were going to rake the lawn today." And he's like, "I did. I spent all afternoon." And then he panics and he realizes Calvin went out there and played in the leaves and made a messy again. Just those little moments like that are so fun. There's one that I think of where it's just Calvin and his dad building a snowman. Love that scene. So I've actually only got one book for this list. I'll do it right now. One book that I don't physically have with me. It's because I read it digitally. And it is Borrasca. The author is C.K. Walker. And I'll throw it up right here. It's, again, I can't say anything about it. I can't say anything because it's a huge spoiler. Just know it's extremely dark. It's like a Reddit no sleep thread that the author published the novel, and I read it. So it's got pretty weak writing, like pretty low quality actual prose. You know, someone reading like Cormac McCarthy, of course, everything seems low compared to that, or King, who is the master at writing characters. This book, it's not that good like that, but the story itself was good, and it's got one of the worst dads of all time. So I can't say anything else about it because it's a huge spoiler. Just go check out Borrasca. So that leaves me with 2 more books for the good dads. So I thought about this for a bit. I'm gonna do Geppetto. So after I read Pinocchio, I was like, I didn't really like Geppetto at first, but then toward the end, you realize he just, you know, built this boy, loved him, tried to teach him good things. Pinocchio ran off, and then Geppetto spends the whole book just trying to find his son and puts himself in danger. And I mean, what more can you ask from a dad? So Geppetto, you can go on the good dads. The last one I'll do here is going to be Batman. So one of my favorite comic runs of all time is Grant Morrison's Batman. Also Tomasi's Batman, who's behind me right here. I haven't got to that one yet. I really want to. It's intimidating. It's a huge book. That's like over 1,000 pages. But I've read all of these Batman books, and you just really grow to appreciate Damien. I did not like Damien at first. Nobody likes him at first because he's a little turd. But the more you read, the more he grows on you. So I put a little card right here just to show. This is kind of like the first appearance of Damien in this book. Father, thought you'd be taller. So Bruce realizes he has a son. And there's so many instances where Damien is just being such a little turd, and Bruce has to kind of put him in his place. There's one moment that sticks out for me. I should have found it so I could show it. It's probably right here somewhere, but I won't waste a bunch of time looking for it. It basically, you know, Damien was raised by assassins, so he'll straight up kill people. He has no like moral compass, and then Bruce gives him one. So over time, Bruce puts him on a better path, and it's just beautiful to watch. And then of course, Super Sons, where you've got Bruce's son and Clark's son together. That's why I put them on the list here. And when they're together, they have such a clash of personalities because Damien is raised by these villains. Clark raised his son Jonathan to be, you know, good, like ultimately good. And they just clash with each other. So Jonathan is kind of like a little goody two-shoes, and then Damien will help him bring out a little bit of that edge that everyone needs. And then on the other hand, Damien is a little turd, and Jonathan will help show him the right things to do in situations. So anyway, that's it. Happy Father's Day, everybody. See you guys on the next one.